For this episode of our Should I Shut Down series, we're on part 6, and we're going to look more into the mental aspect of what a shutdown means for an athlete and some of the possible benefits we can get from that. So the question we pose is do I need a mental break from, and specifically from throwing and performing? If you take anyone that's really good at their craft and separate them from that craft for any amount of time, then they should be uncomfortable. They should not like that. So the idea here is that by taking the throwing away from them or having a shutdown period, it's a time of reflection and a time for the athlete to say, hey, this is something I actually love more than I thought and I really miss it. And so when they get back into it, then things like focus are increased. The number one thing that I wanted to make sure we get across is this is not scientific. So there's not been any research done on this. It's all anecdotal. It's stuff that we have dealt with from experience with our athletes and guys coming in week 3 of their 6-week shutdown, begging to throw. Can I start early? Can I just play catch? Can I just do this lightly? And it shows their obsession with it, which is awesome. And it also shows that what we're doing is I think having a very positive effect on them mentally. Those types of things lead to increased focus when those guys do start back. So the overall monotony of throwing a baseball and doing the bands or doing your warm-up is very similar most days. And being able to go through that process and having to do that day in and day out, you do that for 3 or 4 years without having any time away or taking a break, and consistently doing it for like 3 or 4 years, 12 months out of the year, then it gets a little stale. So just by simply taking them out of that process and removing it and spending more time in the weight room, we're still obviously working towards some different arm care, arm strengthening goals, but to be able to have them away from actually picking up a baseball or using the bands or using the wrist weights, we see guys that come in and the first day that they're back doing that stuff, it is like a totally new person. They're locked into every single movement. And it's not just, oh, I'm getting warmed up again. It's, I miss this and I love this and I want to be better at this. I'm not going to take it for granted every day. We've all heard the expression, distance makes the heart grow fonder, and I think that's 100% true and 100% what happens. Usually applied more in like a human relationship type relationship, but again, it applies very much here. If you take a golfer away from his golf clubs for a month, if you take a basketball away from a basketball player for a month, if you take someone that loves computer programming and you take their laptop away for a month, once that person gets it back, there's a great appreciation and usually a greater focus involved. The other part to look at, and we don't want to minimize the other 5 parts that we've already talked about and what we're talking about next week. This is not the most important thing. So we have to make sure that everything else plans out, like the breaks from throwing and the year calendar that we've discussed in depth the last couple of weeks, so that we can match that up, because it's great if your mentality is rested and you feel mentally refreshed from that break. But again, if you have that period where it's like, oh, I have three weeks between games, I'm going to stop throwing between those 3 games, then you're really putting yourself up, increasing your chances to get hurt. So take it with a grain of salt. Is it added benefit? Absolutely. I 100% believe that. Is it a necessity? No, it's not. Put the physical side first, and then I think this is just an added bonus. So that kind of wraps up for what the benefits are of the shutdown. I think we've covered a lot of it. Next week, for part 7, it will be our final week, and we'll look at what are we doing with the body during those 6 to 8 weeks that we're actually shut down, and what are the benefits more from the side of what can I do in the strength department or in the weight room that I don't normally do either in season or when I'm competitively throwing a baseball.